Hello, everyone, and welcome back to World Explorers. This is the podcast where we take a random prompt and we build an entire world out of it. My name is Casey, and as always, I'm joined by our prompt master, Isaac.
My dog is making weird noises.
We can't hear it, so that's all that matters. Proceed.
Anyway, so today we are world building a space station.
Ooh.
Because I was watching Star Wars The Clone Wars recently.
Nice. Good
and
job.
there was a space station built as a ring around a planet. And I'm like, that is such a cool concept, and there are so many implications that started running through my mind with this concept. And so I'm like, yeah, let's world build that. Because, one of the immediate things that came to my mind was, if people are world building, or if people are building this space station ring, that's such a massive project that likely different parts of the space station function totally differently and have different aesthetics and systems and ways of running, because they would have had to have been built by so many different people and designed by so many different people. What are your thoughts on this idea? Because I think it's wild.
Yeah, I mean, I like to think about it more of like a culture standpoint. You have a ring that's the size of the world. Do you really think the entire ring will be like one culture and one species, even one belief system and such? No, they're gonna build their own little communities inside each section with their own like grocery stores and ways to get food and jobs and all that in different ways. But if like it's
they build their own governments?
Possibly, you could have entire nations inside these things. But like at the same time, they're all working with the same technology, because I assume the ring is all interconnected and probably has very similar technology, so it functions better. So all these people have this one defining feature where they all know how to fix problems no matter where they are in the ring, which I think is kind of cool.
Maybe. I'm wondering if there are different levels of technology throughout the ring. Like, yeah, if you were, like, maybe one side of the ring has high level of technology, but the further you travel along the ring, the lower the technology might become. Especially if that part of the ring was constructed first, and it's had more time to advance. And the further you go along the ring, the less developed essentially it's like less developed countries, the further you go. Or maybe there were multiple points of the ring, multiple starting points that were constructed around the planet, and then they were all connected over time. All the starting points would be the higher levels of technology.
Yeah, so, but, like, how interconnected are the pieces of this ring together? Like, is it a point where if you were, like, if one goes off, you're probably okay, like, blows up or breaks or something. But is it a thing, like, if two or three, you start, like, everyone gets affected and feels the effect of it, even if it's on the other side of the planet type thing? Like, how reliant is the ring on all the parts continuing to work? Because that would affect... If the technology stays regulated, they stay at the same level, they take turns upgrading, trying to keep each other up with it. Because the last thing you want is like a bunch of outdated parts, and then all of a sudden those outdated parts malfunction, and suddenly everything goes down because of it.
I do think it might be similar to what we currently have, like, on Earth, where you can have different setups of like towns and cities and with power lines and power plants and all set up. And if, like, let's say a power plant goes out for some reason, a lot of people are going to feel that, but it's not like the entire world is suddenly affected. It's more like a localized area, because that power plant only goes...
This isn't Earth. This isn't like
this
this giant...
Earth, no.
This isn't this giant mess. This is a ring that is all interconnected and floating around a planet, so to speak. This is a thing that, like, if one section goes down, there's a chance all the other sections might go down with it.
Okay, so I think that maybe what we need to do is figure out exactly how this ring works, how its orbit works, all that. How many suns does this location have? Where are they getting their power from? Are they solar powered? I don't think they're wind powered because they're in space.
Like, what size planet are they wrapped
do
around?
different sides? Yeah, I'm thinking, do different sides of the planet get different amounts of sun, or different sides of the rings get different amounts of sun?
Oh,
How often do they get sun?
yeah.
Because these are all things that will affect how exactly this ring operates and how it's run, and uh, yeah, how they get their energy and stuff.
Because the thing
And
about
yeah,
this
again, like you
is,
said, what about the planet? What kind of planet is this?
I think the thing to keep in mind, the thing that makes this world special from just a bunch of space stations being shot out into the atmosphere and people living on it, is the fact that this is one interconnected ring. It's a complete circle. You could walk from one, you can go left in this spaceship, and you'll end up back where you started eventually. Like, that's the big defining feature we have to keep in mind. So I guess that would affect, like, probably a smaller planet. Like, I don't think we'd want an Earth-sized version of this. Like, I don't think that's practical. I also don't think it would be wrapped around Earth, because it'd probably be wrapped around a planet that's inhabitable. Like, that's, why else would you want to wrapped around Spaceship, if not because you can't live on the surface of the planet?
Well, what if the reason the ring exists is because you can no longer live on the
Oh.
surface of the planet? And this might be something similar to the steampunk world that we created a while back, where we had that floating city in the sky, and it was just polluting the earth to the point where it was uninhabitable except for by the people who had already been there for so long that they've adapted to their environment.
Yeah,
What if
true.
it's something like that? Maybe they've got a very unclean, non-environmentally friendly mining system going on the planet, and that they were using to build this massive space station.
I mean, I
And
got,
this mining system has gotten so bad that it's forced like the entire planet's population to move into the space station. And meanwhile, they are still mining resources to keep building onto the space station and destroying the planet in the process. Even though the planet's already so inhabitable, it doesn't really matter at this point. They keep going.
well, I mean, yeah. Or maybe this is, okay, what about the idea of a planet killer spaceship? In the sense that this is a society that lives in their very big spaceship, like huge spaceship. And what they do is they target planets with certain resources on it. They come in, they wrap their spaceship around it. So they probably do smaller planets because of that and make sure they can always fit around. There's probably a lot of space in between, but you get the idea. And then they start
Yeah.
like mining operations. They completely obliterate a world, take all of its resources upon itself, grow their spaceship accordingly, and then they take off and they go find another one.
Oh, do you have any idea how cool of like a... This is something that's sort of been done before a few times, but you can have a very cool, interesting sci-fi fantasy story where like you have this giant spaceship coming to attack Earth and drain it of its resources, and now it's like, well, gotta stop the aliens.
Yeah. I mean, but would this be a planet that would be like, oh, there's people living here, maybe we shouldn't, let's go find another one? Or is this a place where, like, nah, Earth looks good, we kill Earth? I mean, we've also, like, depleted a lot of our own resources, so, like, why would they care to come down here? You know?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think that
I don't agree.
Earth is resource heavy.
I
Like,
don't...
when compared to other planets, especially uninhabited ones.
Exactly.
But then again, what if they were to say, oh, look, you guys were so kind as to go ahead and mine up and process, like, all of these resources for us. We're going to take your buildings and your vehicles, because you've already gathered the metal and stuff we need.
Or, like, they come
It's
in
much
for
easier than
information harvesting. Like, they kidnap people to improve their spaceship with their ideas, and... Is
So, alien abductions.
that... Yeah. But maybe they don't, like, completely destroy a planet, because then they can come back in another couple hundred years to see what new innovations they have, and... Like, they have
Okay,
planets they
so-
check up on.
Us humans are we're still fighting each other constantly. We're barely able to travel through space. These guys who built this massive space station, they want to come to us for innovation. Like,
here's the thing. Look,
I have my doubts. Like, they come here for the Rubik's Cube and then leave.
Well, yeah, but like things like that. Like, maybe they made this huge thing, but they haven't figured out, like, colored television. Or something like that, because those are very different things. They're not really related to spacecraft stuff. Or maybe they like some of our artistic thing. Like, maybe they don't know how to make pottery. And they can come here and we can show them how to make pottery. Or maybe we do have resources they don't have. Or they've discovered this research on a planet and they're like, oh wait, Earth has this resource. And we can go study Earth to see how they use their resource and learn how we can use it for ourselves. Like, stuff like that.
Okay, so
it's
like,
perfectly
say, copper,
plausible.
They don't have,
yeah.
Okay, so maybe they don't have copper, and so they're like, oh, you've got this fantastic conductive resource that we can use to make our electronics. Let's go get some.
Yeah, and now they know that copper exists, but instead of taking it from humans, they look for another abandoned planet. For some reason I've decided I want to make Nice World today. But they go to another planet and they're mining the copper there, and then they're learning the resources and like skills via the humans. And maybe it's through abductions, or maybe it's through them like shape-shifting down there and like infiltrating humankind. Look, there's options. Oh,
there is?
There's always options. Or maybe it looks like a full-scale implosion and we try to nuke them and then that's just the end of that relationship. Because let's be real.
Yeah, it's just like we just launch a bunch of nukes at the spaceship and then it doesn't put a dent in them because they got the force fields. And then they just got like one leader that comes down, or diplomat or whatever, commander, it just shows up. It's just like, so why are you shooting at us? And so like, that's not exactly very friendly. Just like, oh, we're sorry, we didn't realize that you weren't trying to kill us. Well, we are going to try to kill you now.
Yeah.
They dropped their bombs. Like,
well, then we're just done.
Yep.
Yeah. Okay, I do have to make like a
resources.
I'm gonna just ruin everyone's sci-fi like fantasy dreams because I learned something in my class about like space and the size of space, and the fact that like, so we keep talking about how we want to hear like other aliens like radio waves and things like that and see if we can like communicate with them. The truth of the matter is our own radio waves, since we've started producing them and like sending them out into space, haven't even like made it halfway to like the next nearest star, let alone the next solar system. Like radio, like communication in space and travel is so slow, and it's, you know, and there's also like the whole thing that we've learned that we're probably seeing stars in the past. Like the stars we see now are not what the stars actually are in this time and moment. It's what they looked like years and years ago. It's fascinating stuff.
Yeah, when people say that it is space, they literally mean it is like empty space. There's basically nothing there.
Like,
you just have to keep going and going until you find something. And then once you reach that star or whatever it is, you're going to have to go a ridiculous distance just to find another asteroid or anything.
And this is like traveling at the speed of light. Like, you could travel at the speed of light and it would still take like 10, 12 generations to get to the nearest star. To get to the nearest galaxy would be ridiculous. But yet we have like, and now we're getting photos and stuff of it. It's crazy. But like, we can't travel there.
There was, there are lines in like Star Wars talking about how, oh, we have to calculate our jump to light speed because if we don't, we might end up running into something like an asteroid or a star. But really, if you were to do any sort of random jump across the galaxy from one side to the other, the chances of you hitting something are like
so
0.00000. I don't know how many zeros. 1%.
Sci-fi in actual space is
no
so
chance
boring.
You're gonna hit anything.
Yeah, actual sci-fi in sci-fi in like with realistic space is boring, and that's why we don't do it. But I just thought I would give everyone that perspective.
I mean, it's why we add sound effects when there's explosions and lasers in space, when really you wouldn't hear anything.
They'd just be a silent film. It'd be, yeah.
Yeah, you know the classic TIE fighter sound? Yeah, that wouldn't make that classic scary sound.
It would just be...
that.
Yeah. Just long, awkward silence. Anyways, that was your educational portion of our video. We can now return. Pretend it. All that to say, we're ignoring that, and in any future space episode, we're probably also still ignoring it.
Yeah, things like sound in space and being able to travel and communicate through outer space, that's just cool, and not being able to do that breaks a lot of fun sci-fi.
We can't communicate through space. I do want to clarify that. We can still do that. It's a lot slower than...
No, I'm talking but we can now communicate solar systems apart.
Yes. Yeah. Well, and maybe there is a way one day, and we'll learn that, but, probably not in my lifetime. And I'm okay with that, personally. But in this world, these guys have figured it out, and now they're info-farming humans to learn about resources that we have that they didn't, but they now have access to. Which is kind of why I'm thinking, Secret Invasion might work better than, full-out wrapping their thing around our planet. Also, I feel like they attack smaller planets, so Earth's, their spaceship couldn't wrap around Earth, Earth might be a bit too big.
Well,
I feel like they're more
that
Pluto.
After they keep building onto the ring, maybe they expand the ring over time and make it wider, so that eventually it can fit around bigger planets like Earth. Actually, I have to wonder, what if they were to do this with stars? What if they went to a star and that was their source of energy? Rather than getting it with solar panels or something, they actually drain all of the heat and energy directly from the star and it burns out.
They've got some weird alien tech there, let me tell you, to be able to do that, but, it's sci-fi.
But it's a cool idea, isn't it?
Yeah, well, which means they might take turns, draining stars and draining planets. They might just be solar system eaters. But...
Yeah, I mean, I imagine that to drain all the resources of a planet requires a lot of power. Well, where do they get their power? I don't think solar panels are going to be quite enough to... do it and then also travel across the galaxy. How about they eat stars?
Flow and eat the...
I'm not sure what all the scientific implications of that are exactly, or if that might create a black hole. I don't know.
I feel like it'll create a lot more issues than just a black hole, and the fact that all solar systems rely on their star as gravitational pull.
Well, sucks to be that solar system.
So, yeah, but, they want to drain the solar system out of resources, too. So, do they drain a full solar system and then drain a star?
It might depend on whether or not they need to refuel. I think that's the main thing, is do they need to refuel?
Yeah.
And when they do, they just go to the nearest star, or at least one that is small enough for them to wrap around, because, it's something like our sun, I'm pretty sure is a relatively small star, yet it's ridiculoly massive.
Oh, I don't even like
to Earth.
Yeah, there's no way they're wrapping around it. How small can a star get? Let's Google. How small can the one from 2009 in Universe Today says that the smallest star is still 20% bigger than Jupiter. But it also has 100 times the mass.
Yeah, the one I'm looking at says it has 100 times the mass of Jupiter.
But there are suggestions that smaller stars are probably out there. Because the theoretical mass for a star is 0.07, which I don't know what that means.
But even then, I do still think it's too much of a stretch to say that they wrap around stars.
They also seem to be really rare.
Unless you want to, just sort of hand wave and be yes, there are plenty of stars in the universe that are as small as planets. And I just hope that nobody looks that up. Or you could world build it and say, well, this universe has small stars. I mean, I'm in my world that I created, the stars are and not much larger than a truck.
Yeah. Okay. So because our newest star, they were oh, this thing is too massive to be a planet. So then they realized it was just a tiny star. So the fact that, our smallest stars, people's first thought about it was, oh, this is too big to be a planet, kind of tells you that, wrapping around a star would be... It might be cool, and we might be able to add in this world, tiny little power sources, but, I don't know how that would affect, planets and universes and gravitational pulls. There'd be a lot to it.
I think that maybe they just have solar panels laid along the station. I'm so disappointed.
Well, here's the thing, though. Reasonably, you're like, oh, there's no way, like, solar panels could power this thing. But at the same time, like, solar panels, if we did it right, and, like, wind power and stuff, could power our entire Earth. And this thing's smaller than our Earth.
Yeah, I mean, solar panels, it could... Well, at the same time, how much power does it take to... Are you talking to move this thing?
Oh,
and then you're talking about moving it across the universe, the galaxy, and then you're talking about all the life support systems on the inside that people are running, and then you're talking about the mining operation that they have to
I don't
put
feel
together.
Qualified to build this world.
I mean, I think that if you can say the technology has advanced so much that they have become incredibly energy efficient. Like, for example, light bulbs from 30 years ago.
Ooh, yeah, that's true.
Required more electricity and were generally not as bright as the bulbs we have now that require much less electricity and are much brighter.
That is very true.
Like, I think that maybe you could say that they've just gotten so good at their energy efficiency that it's not a problem.
I don't know,
maybe and they've got better solar panels than we do.
Maybe there's something in space, like just space, the concept, the idea, the being that is space, that they can draw energy from that we just have no idea about.
They draw energy from dark matter.
Yeah, I noticed dark matter pop up in some of those articles, which I was like, I don't want to get into that. But maybe they do dark matter, or like just there's something to the nothingness. Like you can push yourself through the nothingness. Also, like, there is this whole idea that like you push. It doesn't take much to get you moving in space, and once you start moving, you just keep moving.
Yeah, like the only force you need to apply at that point is force to stop.
Yeah, so actually moving, like, once you get to the speed you want, you can stay in that speed really easily. Like, with little to no energy, and then you just use that same energy to stop. Like, it's not as energy consuming as I think we think it might be, like our brain tells us. Especially because for some reason we've decided we're being accurate to space.
Of energy. It requires a lot of energy to get moving.
Yeah.
But once you're moving, it's not a problem.
Exactly. So, and that's probably what they do most of the time, is like moving between planets. And then they spend a good chunk of time in the planets drawing energy from it. And the resources there, and then they can be collecting excess energy preparing for another trip. And then they just hope they don't... And I'm sure they're very calculative in like where their next stop is, how far away that stop is, how much energy do we need. Okay, let's make sure we have like more than enough to get there, and then they do it.
Yeah, I'm sure
I was about to say, it's not like rocket science, but it very much is. But
this is much more advanced than rocket science.
Yeah, but I think we're overcomplicating it, and there's no need to. Like, with powering it by stars. As cool of a visual as that would be.
We can literally just say, this universe has tiny stars, and they drain the power from them.
Yeah, if you wanted to.
And that's it.
Yeah, it's simple.
Just say that. And then if anybody calls you out and is like, actually, stars aren't that small, they can't be that small, and you say, well, they are in this world. And then they might say, well, really, it's physically impossible unless you explain to me all the physics of the world. It's like, okay, fine, everything is just supersized in this world. And then they go to, well, actually, the effect that gravity would have.
Isaac, I think
okay, everything is supersized, and the story is told at 10 times the speed. Happy?
Okay. Yeah, I was more like saying that there is fusions that can be smaller than the Earth. We just have never seen a star that size. Because I was reading articles. Look, I skimmed read like 5 articles in that time. I feel slightly more like an expert on the size of stars. It's a topic I'm ready to discuss with the world now. I understand what star size is.
Yeah, I knew that stars were big. I just didn't realize that there were none that were the size of planets.
No, not
and
really.
that disappoints me.
Well, look, we are educating the masses today about star sizes.
I hope everyone else is just as disappointed as I am.
I hope people are just as intrigued and fascinated as I am, and feels encouraged to go look at pictures of stars and compare sizes, and because it's fun.
I mean, space exploration is fun. It's very cool.
It is. Anyways, where do we want to go now?
I mean, oh gosh, we spent so much time just trying to figure out this star thing.
Let's see. This is what we've established. We've established kind of how it's powered. It's a bit vague, but I think that's okay. We've established what it does. It goes about and it destroys planets-ish, or at least mines all the resources out of them. We've kind of just decided travel is its magic. It's not. It's science, but we aren't qualified to explain it, and that takes a lot of effort that I'm not willing to put. We've explained what they would do if they come across living life and how they would interact, and that they're not evil beings that would destroy you instantly, but more like they'd learn from you, and then they'd go about their merry way and find another planet to devastate. So, do we want to talk about the creatures, the aliens themselves?
For some reason, I envision them all having triangular heads.
Why?
I don't know why.
I want a reason, though.
Okay, so what do they look like? We could go with a classic, green alien with big head and very slim body. Looks almost like noodle arms. With big black eyes.
Okay, so what would be useful for an alien in this situation? You're living in a spaceship your entire life. You're probably just a naturally intelligent species, but maybe not. I don't know how the societies look. I assume they have normal jobs in their society, like crop growing as well, and teachers, I'm sure, are a thing, because I'm sure there are young aliens. We call them aliens, but they're the ones living in the spaceship. This is their home. We'd be the aliens to them until they invade us.
Yeah, I mean, I see no reason for all of these different aliens to be super intelligent creatures. So long as everyone has enough intelligence that you can get a bunch of them together to make the spaceship work, I think you're fine. For example, there is no one human that can build a rocket.
Yeah, it's a
or a rocket to the moon, and then have people walk on the moon. However, you get a bunch of the world's smartest people together to build the rocket, suddenly we have man walking on the moon.
Exactly, and it's cool like that. So, yeah, I think
that the spaceship is the same way.
Yeah. They might have just got lucky on resources and stuff.
Yeah, and I was talking before about it being designed by a bunch of different people, and there's different areas that would function a little bit differently, and maybe run differently, and different aesthetics and all that.
Yeah.
Because it would have been built by and designed by thousands of people.
Yeah. Yeah, I could see some customization, but I think the main plan of it is very similar, just so they can mass educate people how they work. We have different styles to power lines, but all the basic way in which a power line works is the same. Someone working for one power company can get a job at another power company doing the same thing.
Exactly.
And that's kind of just what I want, how I feel this spaceship would run more smoothly. How is it run politically? Do they have many nations?
That
they just can't get a war.
I don't think that this is going to be a space station with a bunch of divided countries going to war or anything.
Well, because they would all die.
Yeah, they need each other to be able to go from planet to planet.
Yeah.
And, so maybe they do have different, systems of government, and maybe different governments spread out throughout the ring, and the first thing that came to mind was maybe they're all voting on which planet to go to next. Maybe you got systems well, we're low on these resources, or we need these specific resources, or we want more education on this planet, and then they go and they debate which ones should we go to next, which should we prioritize, and then they're oh, okay, so 90% of people want to go to this planet, so I guess we're going there to get those resources.
Yeah. Yeah.
Maybe it's something like that.
So, like, a vote, a more democratic vote. Because I guess the size-wise, like, what's the population size looking like? Is it...
I think it just keeps growing over time, so it really depends on what stage of development you want to make the space station in, because as the space station gets bigger, you can hold a larger population.
True. Yeah, so, I don't know, it seems so easy for, like, political rifts and, like, division to occur just because it occurs on Earth, but at the same time, like, we can attack a land mass and not really be affected on our own land mass. I think we're starting to realize that that's not true. That, like, when we mess with their land mass, it counter effects and affects ours eventually, and we should probably not mess with their land mass if we want to keep ours safe type thing. But it doesn't seem as obvious on, like, a planet like Earth as it does in this spaceship, where literally, like, a hole gets blown up in one section, and then you have this huge panic, like, oh my gosh, a hole just got blown up in this section, we have to go and we have to fix this or else we're doomed type thing.
Yeah, remember when we didn't really know how nukes worked, and America was just kind of dropping them willy-nilly?
Yeah.
It's like, oh, hey, your nukes are affecting us over here. It's like, no, it's not. We're way too far away from any land mass. It's not going to bother you guys. It bothered them.
Yeah, exactly. It's not as obvious here, but we're realizing this. But in a space station like what we are designing, it's definitely... I feel like they would definitely know this, so it doesn't matter how big that is. They all know that they can't go to war or anything. They have to fight politically. I think there'll be a lot of political debates. I think there'll still be like a lot of division and stuff, but I think compromise will be more readily happened because the other option is like extinction and everyone dies.
Well, that's kind of where we're at right now.
Yeah, but we don't realize that.
Like, as soon as one person launches a nuke, everyone launches a nuke.
And then we're all screwed. But it's harder for us to wrap our heads around it on Earth because we have our own individual landmass. We're not. We as human society need to realize, but haven't quite yet, but hopefully will soon, realize that we are all living on the same planet and that what we do in our little part of the planet affects other parts of the planets. We haven't gotten there yet, and that's sad. It really is sad, but we're working on it. But
that's why I brought up the nuke example.
Yeah, but this society with the spaceship was built with that idea in mind. Like, they were formed that way. And therefore, they would have a greater appreciation of it. Also, I don't think they would get terribly big, because it might be they occasionally find, like, habitable planets, and they might leave some of their population there to habit a planet permanently as they continue on.
I can see that happening. Yeah, some people would be like, hey, I actually want to live on this planet, like, forever. This is a nice planet.
And they get enough votes, and they get enough people to it, and then they leave the resources behind. The spaceship gathers enough resources to continue on to its next planet, and then they have, like, a big party and a goodbye, and it's tearful, as maybe some, like, parents are separated from kids willingly. It's all willing, I want to say. It's all volunteer. This is a nice place. And then they go off and they continue on their way. It's like Moana.
Then they all build societies, and they figure out nuclear technology, and they all start fighting each other while on this planet, and it gets really messy really quickly, and then the big spaceship comes back just to check on and say, like, how's it going?
Oh, no, yeah. I mean, that could be, and
they're the one. Maybe this is what happens. Maybe these people aren't aliens on this spaceship. Maybe they're humans, and they left some people on Earth many years ago, and we've developed all this nuclear technology, and they've come back to check on us after all these millennia. And it's just like, why are you guys launching nukes? This is not good. What are you doing? And then
sounds like,
oh no, the alien's about to invade, and then the leader of the aliens steps out of the spaceship, and it turns out he's a human. And it's just like, what?
And then they start...
wouldn't that be an interesting story?
And then instead of I feel like it has been a story before. I feel like I've heard this one. But the twist on this one is then they start a revitalization work where they're trying to get humans to all unify again and use their own spaceship as an example. Maybe they finally got to the point where they can wrap around this planet better, and so they are, and they're like alright, let's fix your issues, and then we'll leave and we'll try this again, type thing. Because we've established this is, and that's kind of what they do. They're settling planets with humans who didn't normally have life on them, or if they did not intelligent life, like not human level intelligent life on them, or they're like draining resources and they're just going about transforming the universe, living their best life. Could be a fun TV show.
I like that idea. That seems like a really interesting, fun story. You could really delve into like the nature of humanity and all. Like that would be that's there's a lot of potential there.
Yeah.
But thing is, I don't. You mentioned that you think you've heard this story before. I can't think of where I've heard this story before, but it does sound like a thing that should already exist. Like if this doesn't exist, it should.
Let's see. A spaceship of humans populating other planets.
Star Trek?
Including Earth. Oh! Is it Star Trek that happened?
I don't know. I don't watch Star Trek.
Stargate! I mean Stargate.
Stargate? I don't watch that either.
So Stargate, Stargate, the whole premise of it is that there's like this one race, and it's weird. Stargate, but Stargate, I think that's something that happened. Because all of like the aliens are humans.
Ah. So they might have done that in Stargate, where they went to a planet like Earth and were like, "What are you guys doing? Why are you shooting at each other? You're all humans. Stop it!" Yeah,
well,
idiots.
That didn't really happen. Like, it's more complicated than that, but there's like that idea.
I know, but at first glance,
because there are still things like alien parasites and stuff that affect things.
Yeah, but I'm just saying that, like, at first glance, these guys are going to return to Earth, look around, see humans shooting at each other, and be like, "What the heck are you doing? Why, you morons? Stop it!"
Yeah. But I do think this is a good place to leave it. I'm satisfied. I'm happy with it. We've now got our little spaceship flying around, repopulating planets and or mining out all their resources, depending on the popular vote, which I think is kind of cool. And this is a happier world. I'm glad we built a happier world or spaceship. For once.
Yeah, I was expecting to make a world about being environmentally friendly and what industrialization does when it destroys the world that you live on and all of that. But no, that's not where we went with this. We went with everybody stop killing each other, please.
And I'm okay with that. I needed some positivity this week, so I'm perfectly happy to have made a more positive outward-facing world. And I think those are also important stories that need to be told. Like, it is okay to write a happy story. It just is. Sometimes, if that's what you want to write, then you can write a happy story. And you shouldn't be judged or deemed as it being less good literature because of it. Because it's still valid, good literature, if it's happy.
I mean, I do recommend that it be happy, though, because it is resolving some sort of conflict.
Well, yeah, but but it can still be a happy story.
Okay, I want to make sure, because generally the stories without much in the way of conflict, they end up being really boring kids shows and movies and are kind of dumb. You want some level of conflict, because that's what generates interest in a story.
Yeah, but it's also okay if the overall feeling of it is this is a more upbeat story of changing things for the better type thing. Versus,
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, but this is where we're going to end it. We will be back next week with another world to build, so we will see you then. Bye, guys.
Guitar.
What?
Guitar.
Okay.